call meeting to order. Go ahead and get started. We may have some other members join us, but I think we have a quorum. So our first item of business is to review the meeting minutes and decision letters. So what's the will of the committee or the perspectives of the committee concerning the minutes? Okay.
So there are some inconsistencies in the way the information is presented. Do we see anything that's incorrect, though?
No, we will do.
And we are going to have to push all of our mic buttons today because they can't do that remotely. So
I think we
that.
verified that the letters are the way they should be. So
Okay.
with that, I make a motion to approve the minutes and the letters as presented.
Okay, it's been a motion made to accept the minutes as presented. Is there a second? All right, motion been made and properly seconded. Is there any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Any abstentions? Motion passes. All right. Any comments, edits about the decision letters?
No.
Okay. Do we have a motion?
Make a motion to approve the letters.
Okay, motion's been made to approve the decision letters as presented. Is there a second?
A second.
Motion been made and properly seconded. Is there any discussion on the motion to approve the decision letters as presented? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Any abstentions? Motion passes. All right, so just for the record, we have asked staff to I do a little bit of research on the role of meeting minutes with other boards and committees in Metro, and a structure and format that will be sort of a consistent pattern for our minutes in the future. We realize it's naturally evolving, just like having televised proceedings has been a naturally evolving experience for us, and so we're in the process of coming up with a format that will be consistent. So, all right, thank you, sir. All right, so why don't we go ahead and ask the first applicant to come up to the table, and would staff read the opening statement and then proceed into introducing the case.
If you are not satisfied with a decision made by the Stormwater Management Committee, you may appeal the decision by filing for a writ of certiorari with the Davidson County Chancery or Circuit Court. Your appeal must be filed within 60 days of the date of the committee's decision. You are advised to seek the independent advice of legal counsel to ensure that your appeal is filed in a timely manner and that all procedural requirements have been satisfied.
Okay, would you please introduce the case?
Good morning, everybody. Steve Mishu, Metro Water. Case number 1 is 2017-00023. It's 2207 Pennington Bend Road. It's a single family. Its inspector is Logan Bowman. The parcel numbers are 06213014500 and 06213014600. This is Council District 15, Councilman Jeff Syracuse. The case was granted approval on September 7, 2017 with the following conditions. Disturbance disturbance of the Zone 2 floodway buffer for an elevated deck, and maintenance of the Zone 2 buffer. The conditions of approval were standard conditions 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. The appellant shall have a landscaper who installs required mitigation plantings certified to Ms. Kimberly Hayes, Metro Water, in writing once the plantings are installed per approved variance, and again, once plantings have found to meet a 2 full growing season requirement. The owner shall maintain a minimum of 75% survivability of plantings through the 2 full growing season. Number 2, the variance will expire on September 7, 2018. However, if grading permit, single family, or building permit is issued within that period, the variance expiration date will run concurrent. The variance is valid only as long as the plan presented to the Stormwater Management Committee does not change. Number 3, mitigation to be moved in closer per Metro Water staff. Number 4, no extended stairway off the deck in back of the home. Applicant requested a rehearing. Can you guys hear me? Is it okay?
I think we've recorded you, so, and I think most of us understand and remember the case. So, yeah. Go ahead.
Okay. Applicant requested a rehearing on 4/5/2018 for case number 2017-00023 based on information obtained by the Nashville Fire Marshal's Office stating that the site needed a secondary means of egress for the 2 homes. Now, the rehearing was held on May 3rd, 2018. The case was deferred so the applicant can get more information regarding the allowance of the 2 egress points. The applicant's request is to allow the constructed stairs from the elevated decks to remain. Flip the page. The appellant is Mr. Adam Epstein, being represented by Mr. Adam Epstein. Stormwater staff has no comments. Codes has no comments. Planning, the site is zoned R15. They will defer to Stormwater. And Greenways is also deferring to Stormwater. Thank you.
Okay, before you conclude, Mr. Mishu, am I pronouncing your name right? Okay.
Yes.
I'm going to ask you to read from the meeting minutes, the board's decision last time, because I think it will help focus our discussion on the information that's pertinent today. I'll explain a little bit more, Mr. Epstein, in just a minute. So.
You wanted the 4 conditions?
No, the reason why we asked Mr. Mishu to come back, the summary of the board's decision in the last meeting.
Mr. Epstein?
Yes. Do you have the meeting minutes in front of you? Over there? Or maybe you could read them. Yeah. Sorry, Mr. Mishu. Put you on the spot.
The applicant's request from there?
No, from the now therefore, the committee's decision.
Now, therefore, it is the decision of the committee that the request and variance request number 2017-00023 as set out above and further described into the case record be and is hereby deferred. Committee's requesting the applicant provide written documentation from the fire marshal verifying that the garage is not a qualified exit or if any alternative exit may be added.
Okay. All right, Mr. Epstein, I really appreciate you bringing the public to assist you today. I'm going to do something a little unusual. I know we have lots of time today, but we have a very specific request. So I'm going to ask you to start with addressing our request before you ask your other witnesses to respond, if that's okay with you. Is that acceptable?
Yes.
Okay, thanks, sir.
Yeah. There we go. Okay. To respond to the specific request, we have 2 letters that should be in your file.
Okay.
The first one is from Byron Hall, head of inspection for Codes Department, that stated that under Section 311.1 of the 2012 International Residential Code, that states egress will be prohibited without will be provided without requiring travel through a garage. Also, I've got a response from Joseph Alman at the fire marshal's office that says the same thing too, that exiting from the house into a garage will not be permissible as you do not have additional means of exiting the garage other than the main garage door, and essentially would be trapped in the space without egress. I've got Mr. Alman here from the fire marshal's office to testify to that if you want to ask him any questions.
Do you want to testify to that, Mr. Allman? It's self-evident? Okay.
Okay.
All right. So based upon that evidence and information, let me ask one clarifying question before we get to your other witnesses.
Yeah.
Just for the record, the stairs end up outside of the buffer, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. So the issue here is that stairs have been added before you asked formal permission to do it, even though you touched base with staff, and apparently there was some misunderstanding about whether or not you need to come back to us or whether or not you could just do it.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. So, do your other witnesses have information that would be any more relevant to the written information
No,
that
sir.
we've asked for? Okay.
I just want to introduce him. This is the homeowner, Dave Dunn.
Okay.
This is our neighbor, Tony Adams. This is my other neighbor, Mary O'Neill. And then Victoria May, who was opposed before, now says she supports our stairs.
Okay, if you'll wait.
Actually, I
just a-
didn't say I supported.
Okay,
I'm here to observe. I want to know how this is done.
okay.
Okay, I thought she just told me that a second ago, but maybe that was not true. I'm sorry.
So is the committee comfortable with us discussing what we've asked to be presented now that it's presented? Do you think we've heard enough information? Okay. All right. So, Mr. Epstein, with that, I'm going to close the public hearing. That doesn't mean we won't come back to you for some additional clarifying information, or we may also ask some of your guests to respond as well if we think it's relevant. So, but we're just trying to be efficient.
Great.
All right. Okay. What kind of questions does the committee have in regard to the evidence that's been presented?
So the stairs exit and land outside the footway.
Yeah, I think the only issue is that the stairs exist in the vertical space above the buffer, but don't end up in the buffer. Okay.
I move to approve.
Okay, motion has been made to approve. Is there a second? Okay, motion been made and probably seconded. Is there any discussion?
I have some general discussion.
Okay.
This was not an issue on the, to be considered. Adam called me about this because he, and I encouraged him to work with staff, because I felt like that this is fairly minor. And so I'm curious as to why something of this nature would have to be considered by the committee. I guess that's my question. Was someone uncomfortable, or the staff, or does the staff have the ability to render this kind of decision, or why are we discussing this? It seemed to be fairly simple to me.
I think in our original approval, we said there was to be no stairs coming out.
Yeah,
So
it says no extended stairway off deck and back of home.
Yeah,
I think
but I
that
thought we
was what-
discussed that. I thought we didn't discuss this coming down outside the buffer.
Yeah, I remember.
I don't remember.
Okay. Well, all right.
yeah, so that's.
Well, I'm
that's
glad
the
to be
only
here.
reason.
Yeah,
But,
well,
all right.
yeah. And
That's it.
And I'll make a comment after we vote that I think may be clarifying as well or helpful. But so we have a motion on the table. Is there any further discussion?
Just I guess maybe a discussion or a comment. We have said in the record where this is not setting a precedent, correct? That's, I just want to make sure, because I know that the stairs were built after without permission, and I don't, we don't want to go down this route again.
That was kind of where I was going to go after the motion. Okay, so since you brought it up, I think it is relevant that another mitigating factor in Mr. Epstein having to come back was that if he had gone through the formal process to ask for permission to build the stairs. Even though he got some input from the person who made the motion, this probably could have been avoided. To answer Mr. Dale's comment earlier, I think the committee, at least in the majority in the last meeting, felt like that this was the second time Mr. Epstein had to come back to ask forgiveness for not having asked permission.
Were there two buildings when we did this originally?
Yeah, there were two involved, but this is the only structure that has received a noncompliance letter from staff. So,
Okay.
all right. So is that it? All right.
Yes, we have a motion, we have a vote.
So we have a motion. It's been properly seconded. Seeing no more discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Any abstentions? Motion passes. So Mr. Epstein, please ask for before. Okay, thank you.
Yeah. You took some time off.
Okay, so the next item on the agenda is staff report. I don't think we have any more cases. Okay. All right.
And we really don't have much to report. I guess they just are putting an ongoing item on business in case something comes up. Fontenelle has started submitting sheets to track their events, and a reminder that we're capping them at 36 events in their buffer per year. And we are working with our legal department to review the Greenway easement documents to determine the permitted use of the adjacent parcel. And that's it.
Okay. So just to summarize, it's going in the direction that the noncompliance order desired.
Yes, we have been meeting with them and speaking with them. I think there was a little bit of confusion on their part about what constituted an event. So I think that was part of what we needed to iron out with them. And once that was discussed, it seemed that part of the issue was or would be resolved, but we will need to work with them on an ongoing basis to make sure they stay within their parameters. And then, like Rebecca stated, the other parcel was the parcel where a greenway was constructed, and they've been having some public use events in that area. And we're to the point now where we're working with legal to look at those easement agreements and to look and reconcile that with the grading permit that was issued for the site. So we're making progress on that, but we want to make sure that we get it right. So we're hoping in the next month or two that we'll have that completely resolved. But at this point, we consider the enforcement aspect of that, I wouldn't say finished, but it's on hold for now, given the information that's come to light. I would also add, I know last time we spoke about the comment aspect, and of course we didn't have, this was a single-family residential, so it didn't relate to NPDS, but we are going to be providing more detailed comment to try to help at least articulate our involvement and our insights into it as diplomatically as we can. I think last time Rebecca had mentioned some of the pitfalls that we run into with that, but we do want to make sure that we give you the best information that we can so that when you're looking at the files, you'll have a basis to know generally if what they're doing, if they've tried to submit at least something. So, like I say, we didn't have any cases this time, but going forward, we're going to work to have stronger comments submitted.
And, just in the context of the fact that we've had two noncompliance issues today presented in this hearing, it illustrates the professionalism of staff to carry out the letter of the law and the letter of ordinances and the decisions of the committee. And it's a tough job, and sometimes it's a very thankless job. And I just want to say on behalf of all of us, we appreciate the staff's dedication and work, and you all being patient with us as we work through these matters that you bring to us. So we appreciate it very much. Okay. Because we rely on your professionalism, and we know it's high quality. All right. So the next item on the agenda was the review of the proposal for a checklist on applications for variances. So,
We could talk about that one next. So we do have a checklist. That's not really a checklist. The checkbox is already checked, and you're supposed to initial them. So we were wanting to make some changes. We had brought it up at the last committee meeting. I think you guys agreed and said, yes, this is a perfect time. I don't think that you guys particularly cared for the way the format of the checklist is. So we're ready with your permission to move forward and update it. I believe, and I don't want to put you guys on the spot, but I think last time, I think you guys suggested that you may be providing feedback on what you'd like to see, and that staff could go back and see what we could do to make it better. So I don't know if this is a great time for me to say we are ready to hear what you have to say, or whether you want us to go and give it a shot ourselves.
I think it would be helpful if each committee member could articulate what kind of information would help them make a more effective and a more efficient decision. I know a lot of our deliberations and the process can inadvertently put a burden on applicants to meet the letter of due process and meet the letter of the definitions of policy and ordinance. And it's the clearer that we can make the expectations for the basis on which decisions are made by the committee, the more prepared an applicant could be, the more thorough their evidence can be provided and articulated to the committee, and the less time is required in questioning and give and take and probing and research to try to figure out, what the right conclusion should be. So I know personally my goal was just to make it easier on the applicant and to make it easier on us to get to a more informed decision. So we need to get to the specifics of that. I think that's what Mr. Mishu is asking for. So who would like to offer, based on their experience in deliberating cases, what kinds of information have we not had in the past that we can standardize that would make this process easier for us and easier for the client and come out with a more just conclusion? Yes, sir. Please. If you have to approach the mic, I think it'd be recorded. Sorry.
I guess I'm seeking legal opinion. So if we petitioned each board member, committee member via email individually, would that be in keeping with the provisions of open records and sunshine laws?
Yeah, that's appropriate.
Okay. And I mean, unless anyone has any today, we can petition you by email individually if that's acceptable to the committee. Think about it. Okay. And then in those emails, perhaps Steve and the staff can put together some drafts for your consideration. Would that be helpful? Okay. Okay.
Yeah,
thank you.
Yeah, I think the only thing I would offer right now that I'll flesh out in a reply to that email request is our mitigation standards. A lot of our variances are based upon some form of equitable replacement of lost natural capital that a variance encroaches on. And, common to legal proceedings, in almost every legal proceeding like this, there's a concern about arbitrariness and capriciousness, making decisions inconsistently and making decisions without a basis of fact or a basis of equitable exchange of capital in the case of a variance. And so traditionally, I know at the state and federal level, there have been fairly clear, fairly technically delineated mitigation ratios for things like wetlands, for things like streams, or at least linear length of streams. I think buffers traditionally have been a little less defined because it's a little more controversial, touches a lot more property boundaries, and a lot more property owners than wetlands sometimes do. And so the more definition I think we could give to mitigation, the easier it would be for an applicant to come in and say, you know, I've got a building that's going to encroach a foot into the buffer. What would be an equitable replacement for this fairly marginal encroachment versus I want to put a whole parking lot in the buffer? Is there an equitable replacement for that? Versus a case where we have a parking lot that was built on top of the buffer or even over the stream before these ordinances and environmental regulations were even written. Can we allow that to continue as a type of grandfather practice, or is there ever going to be a potential for that buffer to be restored if we allow this parking lot to be updated and expanded the way it is? So those are kind of three kind of general scenarios. But I think the more definition we could put around mitigation, the easier it'll be for us and applicants to come up with a less arbitrary and capricious mitigation proposal. Because often we turn to staff and say, this is your job every day, you know, what would you do, as opposed to us as part-time stormwater experts. Some of us are full-time stormwater experts, but we're a mix of a citizen panel. And so we might not come up with as good a technical conclusion as staff has already worked out. So, is that fair? Okay.
I don't recall. So did the review of this come up as a result of some discussion in the committee?
This came up as a response by staff to comments that board members had made in the past about the absence of staff comments on individual cases, or about the degree of staff comments on cases as to whether staff felt like adequate mitigation had been proposed or not, or where certain technical criteria had been properly considered or not. I think one of the things that staff struggles with, and tell me if I'm speaking out of line here, is that they are not in the position of requiring applicants to present, to mandate a certain set of expectations other than what's defined in the checklist. And so there's a certain amount of negotiation that goes on, and some applicants want to present their case in the most favorable light to them, but which may not be in the most favorable light to the ecological needs of a buffer system and a floodplain. So.
Yes, and I think sometimes too, obviously we don't know the full intent or desire of the owner in developing the property, which is why we usually defer to their professionals involved to try to reconcile the general needs that are being lost by whatever variance they're requesting with the intent of the owner. So if we were to say, you know, this area needs to be a forested buffer or needs to be an added infiltration basin, that might be contrary to the whole plan of what the developer's looking for. So that's sort of the fine line that I think we walk a lot of times, and that's why we depend a lot on the site's professional to really help us to keep from, you know, we certainly don't want to be in a position where we're dictating anything. And the phrase we've always used is equal or greater offset. And unfortunately, no matter how you slice that, that's a fairly subjective delineation.
And Mr. Dale, you and I have been around long enough to remember that we've seen Metro Code, Stormwater, Public Works all go through processes like this checklist to make it easier for applicants to work the system.
Well, I was just wondering, I mean, if it should just be up to us to render our opinions about this, or if there should be a broader, bringing in other people or other professionals that deal with this on a daily basis to provide their suggestions as well. And maybe Cumberland River Compact or other nonprofits or environmental groups as well. So I think that we can do all right at looking at this, but I'm not sure that it really reaches the broader aspect. So
that's a point well taken. There is a history of updating the stormwater policies and regulations through advisory boards and advisory committee discussions that then take the form of a written document that's presented to us. And so, yeah, there are precedents for more thorough vetting of these concepts.
So is there any way that we can get this out to other design professionals or other groups to allow them to weigh in on this and make suggestions as far as?
So we, on a daily basis, we're going to 1 million meetings and we have 2 million committees. We could absolutely come up with a group of professionals on both sides of the equation and look at this and develop some feedback from our constituents, meaning our engineering community and our environmental committees, and we could absolutely do something like that.
I know it's going to take time, but if you're just asking for their comments and then you're compiling that data, or give it to us and let us look at it, I think it'd be a pretty good thing to do. So it's something that I would suggest.
So as Hal is whispering over there.
Yeah, Hal, why don't you get up there?
We do have an idea sharing committee that we kind of developed. The initial stages was just for development services on how do we make our process better. And we've invited a lot of people within the community. We've sorted out some issues. We've made some things better. We've stood firm on some things that we just thought we could compromise on. And then after we vetted some of that stuff, we've been getting some discussions that are outside of the development services world, and we've started to include NPDS, and we've morphed into something to where we've been looking at stuff, anything related to bioretention mixes, stormwater management committee, submittal deadlines, do we want to change it? How do we do our processes? So we do have committees like the idea sharing that we could approach with this and find out who wants to be on a committee, and we could look at it. Or I'd hate to say you guys have suggestions. I think you'd rather probably us find people and try to get a well-rounded group together to look at it. We'd be more than happy to take that on.
I sort of like the idea of that.
Are we talking about two different things? So the original request was, hey, can you help this committee make better decisions? Which I think that feedback needs to come from the committee, because we were the ones that said, hey, we're looking for additional input to help us make a decision. So I'm not opposed to this working group, but is that a separate objective?
Well, this is the checklist that all the applicants fill out. And
Right,
if we're asked to look at that and make modifications to that, then I would suggest that anybody that's ever gone through this process may have, some comments. Or anybody that's watching what we do may want to add some requirements as well. And so,
yeah, I'm not opposed. I think that meets a different objective.
Yeah.
Though,
I think it is two different items. So if you look at our checklist.
One's like the design.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So
information to help us make.
Okay.
That's what I was.
don't forget your mics. So if you look at the checklist, the ones that always come to mind for me is number 3. It says a copy of this variance checklist with your initials. I don't know how we fix it, but that to me doesn't make it sound like a checklist because it's already checked off. Another thing we always deal with at staff in our staff meeting before we even come to you guys is item number 9. Almost nobody ever comes back with an alternate plan. If they came in with an alternate plan, we just tell them, hey, you should go do that one, and then they'll they will not come here. Number 12, I think at one time that maybe it served a purpose. Maybe you guys look at that. I don't know, but some of these things are quite antiquated that maybe we could refresh.
That's a point well taken, because I know I have seen letters from the district engineer for the Nashville district of the Corps of Engineers denying permits for lack of alternatives to a 404 permit request. So, it's helpful, and I've heard committee members ask applicants, why didn't you redesign this, or isn't there space over here, because they're experts in civil site design, so they see opportunities that the applicant hasn't presented. So it'd be nice if that could be a little more standardized, so it could speed up the process for all of us. Now, again, I'm not saying we're doing this to make it easier to get a variance. We're doing this to make it easier to process an application request.
And provide you better
And to
information.
provide us with better information to make a more just decision, so.
Mr. Chair, so not to repeat what's already been said, but to add to, if we pursue this, the idea sharing committee constituency is such that those would be people that would be representing applicants, so we could get their input in the regard of what you're talking about and then present to you all from their perspective what might be better, easier to assimilate on the committee. So, and I will say that our idea sharing coincidentally includes more, but the committee members who are currently employed by engineering firms each have a representative on this idea sharing committee, and then it goes beyond the group that's here today. So as Steve has pointed out, we've gotten a lot of good feedback from them, mutual understandings on a lot of things that we hadn't had before, and we hope to continue that process. So,
Yeah, I heard Mr. Dale say, a variety of stakeholders should provide input on the checklist. And then I heard another comment that we have a separate matter of sort of short-term information needs for the committee to process for applications in front of this forum more efficiently. So if we could kind of approach that, I guess, in two parts. The first part is you're going to email us and ask us for ideas for the short-term perspective. And then we're going to launch, our staff is going to launch a little more involved process to get broad input on the checklist. Because those two are linked a little bit. We did ask, could the checklist be the part of the solution? Okay, to the short-term need as well. Okay, great. All right. Are there any other matters of business?
Yes, sir. There was also a discussion about in lieu of water quality that I want to bring to you guys.
Okay.
So just a brief summary. I don't want to insult you guys, but because you guys know it, but for the people, the millions and millions that are watching,
You would be surprised at the people who approach me on the sidewalk and tell me what they've seen here.
So I am not surprised. I've actually heard some of that myself, too. So typically, grading permit sites are required to do post-construction water quality measures. And today, we have the LID manual, which is volume 5, that everybody's required to meet. There are some cases that LID can't be achieved, and there's an internal LID waiver committee that we have. It's comprised of 2 MPDS staff and 2 development services staff. And we usually fairly unanimous in the decisions. It's usually 4-0 or 3-1 in favor or not in favor of granting LID waiver. If you do get an LID waiver, then it will revert back to the old regulations. So you'll have to do 80% TSS if you're in the MS4 that drains to, we'll say, the rivers, or it would be a 50% TSS if you drain to a combined sewer that headed to the treatment plant. We've managed really well with those 2 tools that we have, the LID and the waivers.
And Steve, if I might add, just to clarify to them, the waivers are based on site limitations. So there is a set of site limitations that are evaluated, and I think that maybe plays into the in lieu too.
Sure.
And that's also consistent with the basis for a variance, that the site have unique characteristics.
Absolutely. So some of the requests that we get for LID waivers is brownfields, karst areas like sinkholes, high water table, and one of the major ones we have is the downtown code. So fortunately or unfortunately, we like to develop more in the urban areas, so that way, the outskirts can save the trees and they don't have to kind of sprawl out. So Metro is usually more responsive, more encouraging of development in infill areas. So when you do that in the downtown code, there's other agencies, maybe like planning or NDHA or codes, that have requirements that are, you must build to this line. And in the downtown area, a lot of these are, you must build to the property line. So if you must build to the property line, that kind of reduces your footprint to where you could probably put a bioretention area or infiltration trench. So we do get a lot of waivers for the downtown code. We've had a couple recently that are struggling even after they meet the LID waiver to try to figure out how do we make it work even with the old manual, the 80% or the 50% TSS. So we started a discussion of, do we want to look at possibilities of doing a in lieu of fee, to where somebody would potentially put money in a bank instead of doing water quality on the site, and we would, we meaning not me, but we meaning somebody else, would have, we'll say, shovel-ready projects, or we'll have projects ready to go to where we could do water quality that would benefit in a watershed or wherever it may be. So Rebecca's done a lot of research. TDEC's got some guidance. Chattanooga's already, I think, has some information like this. And I just wanted to bring it to your attention that we are slowly moving to explore that option. And I don't know if I can answer any of your questions that you have, but I'm pretty sure between Rebecca and I, we could probably get whatever answer you need if you have any.
I'll just say, just for my part, I appreciate the consistency and the linkages to the fundamental principles behind how all these decisions get made. And if you could just integrate that process with the two processes that we just described earlier, that would be great. So,
Thank you.
thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I have one other item before I think legal has one last thing. Most, if not all, of the cases that you hear end up being overseen and enforced via the Metro grading permit process, which in large part is formed so as to comply with our MS4 permit compliance elements. As you know, there are certain things that we have to do to make sure that sites maintain erosion control and provide post-construction water quality treatment. And on May 16th, our program was, they called it an inspection, but it was basically an audit by TDEC as it relates to that particular program element. Sometimes they do program-wide audits, sometimes they do just specific element audits, and that's what this was. So I did want to let you know that we did hear back from that, and I'll just read what they said here briefly from one paragraph. They said the construction site stormwater runoff control program is well established, the staff is trained and certified, and the program implementation is compliant with the requirements of MPDS permit TNS 068047. So just wanted to let you know that obviously there's a lot of faith put in staff when these variances are put forth. And like you said, it is an ongoing, issue to reconcile the requirements with what sites do in the field. But this was good news for us, and I think it is indicative of a lot of efforts of staff who work very hard. Our last count showed that we have 730 active grading permits in Metro Nashville, and by this permit, we're required to inspect each of those once per month. So it's an ongoing battle, so to speak, but we do think it's worthwhile, and we were glad to get these results back. So just wanted you to be aware of that.
I'll just say two quick things. One, we knew that before TDEC, and appreciate it, and probably don't say it enough. I know we don't say it enough. Thank you, Roger, and everybody for managing this fine group. But secondly, what's the rough math of the number of inspectors divided by the 700 some odd active permits?
Well, at any one time, our inspection supervisor, Dale Binder, monitors how many sites per person. It's not equal right now. I'd say the southeastern and western part of the counties are seeing the most increase in development, and those inspectors have about 140 sites each.
A month.
A month.
If they're all active.
If they're all active. Now, we consider them active. There's a priority, non-priority designation that is included in our permit, but when a site gets to the point, let's say they're trying to get Steve's section, Hal's section, a stamp on an as-built or something like that, and the site is stabilized, then we consider it not priority any longer. But we are continually looking at those things and trying to keep those manageable. There have been times where we brought on contractors to help us with those things. But right now, we're doing okay, but we're monitoring those trends. Doable, but it is, as they say, a full-time job. And our inspectors, I have to say, it's one of those things, I don't know if you've ever seen the Seinfeld episode where the one gentleman says, the mail, it just keeps on coming every day. These permits just keep on coming every day. I know, I think 2 weeks ago, we had pre-con meetings all day, and they're 30 minutes each. So continuing to build, which is good, continuing to get through the system, but, it is something that we have to work to manage each and every day.
I just did some quick math, and if you have 20 days a month to go do this, that divided into 140 is 7 sites a day. So, okay. Thank you, guys and gals. All right. I think someone said legal has something for us as well.
I believe that we were asked by Roger just to give an update on the Precision Homes case, that the variance that the committee had before it. The committee's decision was upheld by the chancellor, and so the final order, once it's signed and your minutes along with the video, which will be transcribed as attached, will be filed, and there will be a 30-day appeal period for the applicant of the variance. So we were asked to give an update on that.
The next level appeal goes where if the applicant chooses to appeal it?
Yeah, it would go to the Court of Appeals.
Can you remind us a little bit of the details about Precision Homes? We're all kind of saying. And,
what was that?
oh, okay, yeah. And I remember some comments that would likely be litigated. So, okay. Can you give us a little bit of information about the basis by which the Chancery Court denied their appeal? You might ought to speak in front of a mic. Sorry.
I'm sorry, I can't. When I wasn't actually in court when the chancellor ruled, and the order has not yet been. Our attorney, Kate Pham, who handled it, is ordered to transcribe that ruling and to put it into writing, but that hasn't happened yet. So I haven't actually read the decision yet.
So how would you prefer for us to learn from this experience? Would it be appropriate for us to read the transcribed decision, or would you like to summarize it, or both?
So when Kate prepares the order, and if she prepares it to the chancellor's satisfaction, the chancellor will sign it. I think that would probably be shorter than and easier to read than the transcript of the oral ruling. But certainly we can make that available to the committee at the next meeting if you all would like.
I think that'd be great. I see everybody nodding their heads. We could kind of have an informal motion passed here.
Sure.
But
a request for information doesn't really require a motion.
Yeah, I'm messing with you. But
do you want to go ahead? Roger may have more information.
Yeah. I was in court. And I think it's important to this committee to understand that when we hear those statements read every meeting, the filing of the writ of certiorari, and those cases are heard based on the record that's established in this committee. There is an opportunity when you come into and this was Chancery Court, when you come into court, the chancellor establishes that she is going to base her decision on the record, but there is an opportunity for comments by both sides. And so typically the appellant will make a statement no longer than 20 minutes or so, and then in our case, Kate Pham, who's our legal representative in cases like that, will respond to those comments. But there's not a lot of building on the record allowed. And in fact, there was an attempt to try to add a few more cases to consider. And in some cases, it was like, well, you denied our variance to build in Zone 1, but here are 4 more cases where you did allow building in Zone 1, those kinds of things. And I think in this case, and base it on the record as you read it, the addition of additional information is sometimes just denied. You just can't continue to add additional information. It goes to the staff, I think, as we provide information during committee meetings, that our comments are considered as part of that record, and so it's just important that we all have a sense of what our charge and our responsibility is to make sure that there's a good, clean, strong record established that goes to the decisions that you guys make as members of the Stormwater Management Committee.
So did not to belabor things, but since it came up earlier in this context, did you learn anything about meeting minutes and the role of meeting minutes in that type of proceeding?
So I'll ask Kate what she thinks about that, but what Roger just said did jog my memory a bit, and I did work with her on some of the briefing. She wanted to make sure. I think what happened that he's describing is that the attorney for Precision Homes, Sean Henry, was trying to supplement the record by using examples of other cases that this committee heard. And Kate, our litigator, did a very effective job of really digging into the facts of each of those cases and distinguishing them on those facts and explaining to the court why they really were distinguishable from the particular decision that was at stake in this litigation. So I think that was probably a very key and material basis for the court's ruling in our favor, was how effective Kate did that. And I think Roger and other staff members are to be commended as well for, Roger came to all the hearings with Kate, and all the staff members, I think, were a very material help to her in helping her prepare her case.
And I remember distinctly counsel giving us advice about how each case stands on its own merits and its own evidence, and that has been borne out in the Chancery Court's decision. So the quality of the legal advice we get and the managerial advice we get.
And I would say, too, that as you read the transcript, I would encourage you to read the transcript when we get it finalized, because the Chancellor did go through and explain the basis of her decision point by point. So I think that's of value to you, too, as you consider how you render your decisions here as a member of this committee.
Certainly. So after we review that, we may want to have if we see new lessons learned, we may want to have a more formal or even public notice discussion about how this affects our processes. So
You can do that. Once the litigation is concluded, well, if it's still on appeal, it may be possible to do an executive session if that's something that you're very interested in. And I'm sure Kate would be willing to come and give you a little bit more in-depth perspective from the litigator's perspective if that's something that you're interested in. We can talk to her about it.
Okay.
I know she is really busy right now, but
are executive sessions publicly noticed events
they are
as well?
not. They are a limited type of non-public meeting that an open meetings body can nevertheless participate in under the limited circumstances where you are a named defendant in pending litigation, or where a dispute is pending that is very likely to lead to litigation. Under those circumstances, you can have an executive session with your counsel, and that cannot consist of any deliberation or voting on your part. That can only consist of counsel kind of making an informational presentation to you, and then you asking questions of the counsel in response to that. So it can be a give and take between you and the counsel, but it can't be a give and take amongst each other.
That's not fair. Everybody satisfied with that? All right. Thank you very much, guys. Appreciate it. Ladies and gentlemen, we appreciate it very much. All right. Is there any other business before us? The chair doesn't get to make motions to adjourn, from what I can remember. So, all right. We have a motion to adjourn. Is there a second? Motion been made and properly seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you.
This has been a service of the Metro Nashville Network. If you would like to see this presentation again, or for more information about this and other programs, visit nashville.gov.